All right, against my better judgment, I've decided I'm going to do an additional video on, you could say it's a dead game. By like the standard of a lot of 40K players and whatnot, people who like the latest, trendiest games, yeah, it's a dead game. But the game company is supposed to make a new edition of this game. Because this game company has been sticking around and has a product that has outlasted many other products out there in the world. This is Mike Pondsmith's Mekton. I have a copy of Mekton too. The original one had a white logo at the bottom that blended in with the Mecha. But anyway, he's known for Cyberpunk, and Cyberpunk actually is having a resurgence right now with both the video game tie-in and with the new role-playing game that's being released. Mekton, believe it or not, was his first role-playing game. It was also his first board game, and lo and behold, it was also the first mecha game out there in the United States. BattleTech actually came a year after. Mekton was first produced as a board game in 1984 and was re-released as a role-playing game with the same title, Mekton, in 1985. 1985 was the first date that Battle Droids arrived, and in 1986 we got BattleTech proper. So that gives you a time frame on how old this game is. Now, Mekton might as well be considered a dead game. There was the first edition in 85 for role-playing, and then in 87 this was produced. This book was made in 1987, and then you have in 1994 they released, and they had a reprint a year later, but they released Mekton Zeta, and the newest version coming out from R.Talsorian Games is supposed to be Mekton Zero. So all in all, Mekton has this possibility of still being alive here in the future, but a lot of stuff has gone on. The Kickstarter got refunded. We're not quite certain where Mekton's future is. So I'm going to talk about it because this is not so much a dead game, but it's very much could be. It's like Schrodinger's game, but not quite. So Mekton is very similar to Cyberpunk. It has the D10 based system. There are D6s used as well for various different roles, but they use a D10 for skill rolls, where you add your stat plus your skill and plus your D10 roll and see if that beats the difficulty. It also has a life path system where instead of just building a character out of stats and going out and doing attacks on other mecha, you can actually make a character that has a backstory. And in this one, it actually says in the rules text that you can choose instead of doing dice rolls. And I like that. So you can make your choices and follow your choices from there. So Mekton 2 is the main rule book. I do have some expansions on the show too, but I want to walk you through the main rule book first. It is a thin, old school paperback. This is not a hefty volume. But people have called it pretty crunchy before, and I can see where they're coming from, but I myself don't agree with them. This game is moderate in my opinion. I started off with Starfleet Battles, and I played BattleTech, not Alpha Strike, BattleTech on a regular basis, so complexity is something I am very much used to. Mekton has the ability to be complex, but there's a lot of ways it's not as complex as BattleTech, or a lot of other old school games that have that crunch over simplicity flavor of thing. Let's go ahead. It's got your average, it's got a character sheet pretty much right in the front, which is unique, but I guess it works. Here's one thing I do like about the game. Instead of just buying stats, you can kind of tell what kind of stats you're buying for your character by just picking a description that fits your character, and then paying the points for that kind of stat. The points you pay equal the stat, essentially, too. So if you're paying 6 points for something, you get a stat of 6. So there's that. It does have the low hit point values. This book does have 3 standard characters. I think it's Jeff, Rochelle, and Bernard, who are his standard characters he makes. And there's Jeff's character sheet right here. So there's the life path. It goes on to a good 2 sections worth. You got your cheesy anime impersonation drawings there. Made in America, wanting to be from Japan. Anyway, and so there's the end of the life path thing. There's Rochelle's character sheet. Bernard's character sheet's not in the book. I don't know if it showed up in a later book and all, but a few things. There's very little in the way of like mecha that you come with. There's these 2 that come in the book. There are these mecha, and it goes from like You get your fighter type, a fighter with arms, weirdly enough. Your obvious Voltron reference, and then of course various other duders and types thereof. Your standard mecha that walk around. There is a page in here. Now it does go through all the different rules for all these different weaponry, so it's not super simple. It just has your basic D10 style rules, and then of course you go from there. This okay, here we actually have weapons charts. These charts are kind of useful for running the game. Everything is explained in other places, but this has the charts for running the game. So it's a chart-based game. Even though it has simpler rules, mechanics, you'll still need a chart to pull off most things. There's the mecha sheet. There's a sheet for your mech as well as a sheet for your character. Where is it? There's actually a character sheet that I've filled out. Oh, yeah, I'll show you this. Mike Pondsmith was cool enough to pick up good old-fashioned Microsoft Paint and just make a readout of the control systems for the average mecha you see. That's cool. I like it. It's simple looking and it looks like, he drew it in his spare time, but still, it's very cool, and I like the inclusion of that. It's one of those little flavor items that I just like. More charts, and behind these charts somewhere there is a filled out character sheet with a mecha involved. Yeah, here it is. So there's technically this other mecha. This is called a rapier, and it's pretty much your Gundam equivalent. So this is the main character style mech that you can also play with. And they give you a character sheet. Yay. So they also have a bunch of things where your tech may not come out the way you want to. So you can actually role play through the technical building. There's a bunch of there's an adventure setting built in here. I don't think there's missions particularly, but they walk you through how a lot of things would work. No, there is a scene. They do scenes and scenarios. Okay, and of course, the back has NPCs, the world explained, maps and stuff. And that's one thing that Mike Pondsmith did express that I like about his role-playing games. He said, it's nice to have a setting to drop the characters into, because a lot of games fail because they don't have a setting, and it's up to the GM to decide the setting. We have a lot of creative people out there that like to be DMs, but there's a lot of people who just like to play in the world, and the world may be why they're coming to the role-playing game. And there's only 2 pages dedicated to how to role-play for noobs, how to GM for noobs, and the basics on comparing this to the original edition. It then has your, I guess you can photocopy hex paper in the back, all you want. Yay! So it's got a very simple back cover with no art, just text. Mekton, I've never played it actually, I just own it. In fact, how I came across this, I bought this off of eBay as kind of a completion to the fact that I bought a small lot at an anime convention. I bought these. This is actually from Mekton 2. This is the Mekton Empire. This source book is very similar. It has kind of a Gundam feel to it, but it includes some stuff that Gundam doesn't have. Like it has stuff like funnels and new type psionics, and it has a very Gundam feel and flavor to a lot of it, but it has stuff that Gundam doesn't have, like alien characters. There's only, I think, 2 instances of aliens ever showing up in Gundam. And for the most part, Mekton Empire is just this. It has a bunch of bad art in it, by the way. There's terrible art throughout the entire book, but it's very in depth. So a lot of time went into this book. This one was not written by Pondsmith, I don't think. It was written. A guy named Guy Macklemore wrote this one. So this is just one of the supplements I bought, and yeah, it looks pretty homespun. This one does, but that's because it's from Mekton 2. This is actually from Mekton Zeta. This is the Starblade Battalion source book. This one's actually pretty in-depth. It reminds me kind of like cross between Code Geass and like some of the better alternate universe Gundam series like Gundam 00. I actually really liked Gundam 00, when honestly speaking, I find most Gundam disgusting, but Gundam 00 was actually pretty good. Even if the characters were kind of hard and weird. But yeah, you have a bunch of stuff in here. The Slacker Act. They say in this setting, it's like, you have to work in this setting. There is no free ride. And I think that's hilariously good. I like it. This, there's a bunch of, you have mecha sheets. This setting only has like a few mecha in it. Like it shows like 5 extra mecha. And then it has an entire section on ships and stuff like that. This one has worlds covered as well. So it's a pretty in-depth source book for this setting they made for the game. And there's also plenty of opportunity to get out and like work with vehicles and soldiers on the ground, as well as to, fight in your mech. So it's pretty holistic that way. Yeah, all in all, this is a cool book. It was part of the lot I bought. This one is kind of the bottom child of the lot. It's just a scenario source book. Mekton Wars, The Invasion of Terra. It has a bunch of maps that you can... It has Mecha and stuff like that you can use for a setting. But it also has maps and more maps. There's drawings there. Okay, so some of these have maps. Some of these have drawings that say, hey, you have a scenario. Look, it's a blank map. What do you know? So I guess they have plenty of blank fight in space, so they don't have maps for all of those. But they have... maps for just everything else. There's a bunch of sand dunes, it looks like. Yay! Some of these are really simple. Some of them are decently complex. For the most part, it's just, you know, a scenario book. So this was included in the lot I got. And all in all, I think it's pretty fun. This is Mekton. It is presently on the back burner as far as a lot of people are concerned. R.Talsorian Games doesn't have any kind of active plans to work on it right now. Though they have had a post in one of their comment sections saying, no, we know about Mekton. We're going to get back to that and we're going to work on it. But right now, we are not so certain. The community as a whole, gamers as a whole, and with so much being done with other games, it looks like R.Talsorian Games will have to go through its present wave. And in the future, we may see a return of Mekton. As of right now, it's essentially a dead game. Though it's a dead game that is going to be given the Frankenstein technique here relatively shortly if all promises are made true. So I'm going to include it just for now, but keep in mind that I understand the situation. So it's kind of a... You might have fun getting a hold of the RPG. Some of them have been priced on the collector's market for stupid prices. Sometimes you'll find it for really cheap. I found this one for really cheap. I mean... I forgot what it goes for on the back cover, but I paid less than that. It doesn't have it on the back cover. Oh well. I'm assuming this is like a $20, $25 rulebook, essentially. And so I bought it for less than that. So yeah, if you like Mecha and you like role-playing, you might want to look into Mekton. They will make a new edition, but if they do, your old edition games will be in their own little capsule, you know, and they'll be just fine. So... hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment if you actually have heard of people playing Mekton recently, because everything I see is that people say there's a small and active community, but I see no evidence. It's more like people crop up from here in time to time, and they'll talk about Mekton or say, I want to play Mekton, and then nothing happens. So, by all means, leave a comment and tell us what you know about or think about Mekton, if you have prior experience. Anyway, thanks for watching. And may the dice roll in your favor.